switch over to our next speaker, Ping Wang, who's a professor in the College of Information Studies.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Ping Wang. I'm a faculty member at the University of Maryland's Information School and HCIL. Both our school and HCIL are hubs for innovations, as you have seen this morning so far. Our faculty and students are innovators, constantly pushing the frontiers of research and development. Accordingly, my research addresses the question, how do innovations happen? Well, let's take a moment right now to think about this question. First of all, what is an innovation? An innovation may be a new technology, new product or service. Then how does the innovation happen? Well, you just saw a way innovation may happen through misuse. Some may say that innovations happen randomly. Smart people get lucky, then boom, an innovation pops up. While I don't deny that luck plays a role in innovations, it is important to recognize the more strategic and systematic ways to innovate. In a dominant, long-held view on innovation, basic research drives applied research, which in turn shapes development, production, and operations. More recently, this linear model has been reversed by those who emphasize that user demand is the ultimate source of innovation. In 2013, the founding director of HCIL, Professor Ben Schneiderman, wrote in The Atlantic that neither linear model is valid. Instead, he proposed that breakthrough discoveries and innovations often come from the interactions between basic and applied research embedded in large development projects. Professor Schneiderman's ecological model resembles a new way to innovate in the digital economy, which has been termed innovation ecosystems. An innovation ecosystem is a loosely coupled set of people and organizations involved in the creation and adoption of new technologies or products. For example, Apple's iPhone ecosystem consists of app developers, accessory makers, wireless carrier customers, and of course, Apple, in which they co-create or adopt innovative products and services made available via the iPhones. The participants of the ecosystem are loosely coupled because they are free to join or leave the ecosystem without losing their autonomy. But while in the ecosystem, they don't have to follow orders like employees in a traditional hierarchical company. Rather, their relationships mimic those among different species in a natural ecosystem. The iPhone ecosystem is just an example of the innovation ecosystem that generates new products or services. Other notable examples are Google Android ecosystem and Amazon's web service ecosystem. Actually, Amazon orchestrates multiple product ecosystems in e-commerce, cloud computing, food, most recently entertainment, and this product ecosystem are integrated into Amazon's business ecosystem, in which not only new products and new services are introduced and adopted, but also new business models may be tested and implemented. Even more broadly, an entire technology and market category can form its own innovation ecosystem, like the person-computer ecosystem shown here, where waves of innovations emerge constantly. By now, ecosystems have become a very popular model to innovate. We can all feel the buzz of ecosystem. This chart shows the increasing numbers of articles about ecosystems in academic conferences. In industry, the Boston Consulting Group reports that companies that mention ecosystem in their annual reports tend to grow their revenues faster. Why are ecosystems so popular? Why are innovation ecosystems so popular? First, digital technologies have broken monolithic product architecture into pieces or modules that different parties can make and then integrate into a coherent package for the customers to buy. This digitally enabled division of labor and integration of efforts have made it possible to innovate in ecosystem. Further, it is also desirable to innovate in ecosystem because digital technologies are inexpensive and scalable. Moreover, sometimes it is even necessary to innovate in ecosystem due to Joy's law, as famously put by Sun Microsystems co-founder Bill Joy. Most of the bright people don't work for you no matter who you are. So you need a strategy that allows for innovation occurring elsewhere. One such strategy is to tap the unlimited creativity that autonomous players bring to innovation ecosystems. So the possibility, desirability, and the necessity to innovate in ecosystem make this ecological model of innovation very, very popular. However, just because innovation ecosystem are popular does not mean they always thrive and succeed. In fact, those successful innovation ecosystems that you're familiar with are exceptions rather than the norm. Most ecosystems struggle to even get started. Some achieve early momentum, but then collapse. What makes an innovation ecosystem collapse and fail? The more effectively digital technologies enable the division of labor, the more creative and resourceful parties will join an ecosystem, on the one hand, sustaining the ecosystem. But on the other hand, they also bring complexity, interdependency, and uncertainty to the ecosystem, which may cause the ecosystem to collapse and fail. So there's this paradox here. This paradox reminds us that ecosystem success depends on not only the division of labor, but also on the integration of everyone's efforts. So this integration requires that governance and control put in place. For example, the sponsor of the ecosystem may screen new entrants and regulate the innovation activities of the ecosystem participants. This integration of efforts also depends on the coordination among the actors in the ecosystem. For example, many innovation ecosystems have tools such as application programming interface and the software development kit to coordinate participants' innovation activities. The integration of efforts also depends on the decisions that ecosystem participants make. For example, whether to join or leave the ecosystem is an important decision for a company to make as it defines its own boundaries and ecosystem boundaries. All of these processes, control, coordination, decision-making require relevant information because actors in ecosystem need information to reduce the complexity, interdependency, and uncertainty. But on the other hand, ecosystems of different size and different structure may have different capacity for processing information. You must match ecosystem's information needs with its information capacity. Digital technologies serve a few key functions to satisfy information needs in the ecosystem. For example, ecosystems are largely invisible without physical presence. Nonetheless, the data about the ecosystem can be found from multiple sources such as the trade press, scientific publications, patents, social media, etc. Visual analytic tools may be employed to help decision makers visualize the ecosystem. This diagram made with Node Excel shows that innovation ecosystem for customer relationship management, CRM, was a multimodal network in which different players playing different roles with different relationships among them. The dean of Babson College drew this network diagram to help visualize the market category ecosystem for mobile payments. Since each player can join multiple ecosystems, this category ecosystem is a multimodal, multiplex network. HCI researchers at Georgia Tech developed a visual analytic tool to help visualize multimodal and multi-layer network of actors in one or more ecosystems. As Lucas and Barodi speculated nearly 30 years ago, the organization of the future may not be an organization at all. Please note that the future they were talking about is probably now. ecosystem represent a new systematic way to organize innovations today. Innovation ecosystem need information to exist and thrive. HCI researchers and professionals can help develop the next generation information systems for ecosystems. I just used the visualization as an example here, but there are plenty of other great opportunities for HCI folks to help satisfy the information needs in ecosystem. Finally, I'd like to acknowledge the National Science Foundation for the funding. Many thanks to Leilani and Tammy for their helpful feedback on my practice talk for this presentation. You can read the summary of this talk in the HCIL blog or request a full paper to read. Thank you.
Thank you, Ping. So we're short on time. There's a bunch of discussion in the Discord, so we can look at that. I had a question here, maybe that you can talk about, just a brief one.
Sure.
So in the early days of the Apple so you're talking about these ecosystems that are created by companies and other, creators can use. So in the early days of the Apple App Store, the App Store, I think, was on the first on the market before Android came along, and people were saying, that Apple has an unsurmountable lead, and no one will ever build apps and create such a big app library. But we know that this hasn't changed. So this has changed, and now we have Google Play and other apps ecosystems. So do you think, what are your thoughts on this? Is there a finite, how do these ecosystems compete, and how could that, what happened in this particular case?
Oh, actually, I have a backup slide to show this.
This is not rehearsed.
But this is not a planned question. So there are different kinds of ecosystem at different levels. So we have like iPhone, Android, their product ecosystem. We have business ecosystem at a higher level, and then we have a market category ecosystem and technology category ecosystem. So at each level, the different ecosystems are competing with each other. But lower level ecosystem belong to higher level ecosystem, like Amazon is orchestrating many product ecosystems. So the competition is actually multi-level. So you can say that Apple's business ecosystem is competing with Google's business ecosystem. But at some point, the lower level, sometimes they can collaborate. So for example, Google apps may be available in iPhone's network and vice versa. So there are different ways to compete and collaborate. The interesting thing about ecosystem is that when you're co-creating value, you're always collaborative. But when it comes to capture the value that has been co-created, it's always competitive. The current lawsuit between Apple and Epic Games, owner of Fortnite Games, is an indication of this very competitive, conflicting value capturing process.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much.